Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to There we go. It's telling me my mic was offline. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, I'll do my intro again. Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Today we are joined by Melissa June, producer, writer, leadership coach. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and the people you help?
Sure. So I work with women in business primarily. I have a nonprofit called Live Anyway, which supports women navigating life after diagnosis and reconnecting themselves in recovery, oftentimes leads in new business ventures. And then I have a women's business network that focuses on wellness and health and rejuvenation.
Wow. And can you dive in a little bit more with that and how that got started and how you found that?
Yeah, it's a mouthful. So a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 2 triple negative breast cancer. When I was diagnosed, I was operating at the time as a CMO for a legal advertising company. As I went through treatment, naturally, a lot of things shifted and changed, and I wasn't really able to do and to produce the same way that I did before treatment. And in a lot of ways, I just didn't find that drive and that passion for the data analytics anymore. And I was going into recovery. What I learned was a lot about women's health and wellness that's really not covered in traditional medicine and in our traditional, experience. And I wanted to find a way to support women as they were not only navigating their journeys going through diagnosis and in recovery, but also how do they take care of themselves. So naturally, I started to build that network of other women in that wellness industry. So everything from sound bowl healing and sort of natural health and yoga, and all the way to traditional practices and homeopathic approaches to health and wellness, like different cleanses and wellness experiences overall. So it's just been an interesting process as it's unfolded, but really through my own experience in business, but also in wellness. And I learned that a lot of women that are in the business of natural health don't know a lot about business, and a lot of women that are in business don't know how to take care of themselves. So a big part of my mission has been to bridge that gap between the women that are working in corporate America and that are often foregoing their health and wellness in order to, reach certain benchmarks, and the women who have sort of dedicated their whole life to health and wellness and that support, but don't necessarily know how to run a business.
Wow. And that's absolutely incredible. And you took something that was obviously a very negative situation, and you've turned it into something positive and a positive influence for others. Can you talk a little bit maybe about when that sort of, because in that negative situation, there's got to be, a period of time where you're feeling sorry for yourself and for the situation. But can you talk a little bit about maybe that shift in thinking when you decided to turn a negative into a positive?
It for me was when I started to just feel like such a failure. When I was going through chemo, I lost a lot of my memory. I lost a lot of my capacity to do what I'd previously done for others. So I really went through a massive identity crisis while I was going through treatment. It was, what is my value and what do I have to offer? And, what am I doing here? And if I couldn't have faith in myself to complete tasks or to read numbers properly, it sort of put me in this whole other framework that was wow, what is my
Right.
value outside of this? And so it shifted for me. I didn't really necessarily have the conscious thought to shift it. It was forced. And then once I had to take that pause and take that step back away from sort of that machine that I had
Right.
become, I started learning that actually the real power in all of us is in finding what energizes us. And
Right.
when you're sick, you quickly learn what de energizes you because you just
Right.
lose a lot of what you took for granted before, which was waking up and feeling okay. So you start to become hyper aware of what feeds your soul and what feeds your, what inspires you. And you start to only be able to do those things because you just simply don't have anything left for the rest. So
Right.
when I was going through treatment is when that started to shift for me. It's when I started to take care of myself. It's when I learned how to meditate. It's when I went to sound healing for the first time. It's when I started going to yoga because frankly, I didn't know what else to do. And that's when I started meeting all of these facilitators and practitioners and experts in all these really incredible fields that I had never even heard of, ways that I could take care of myself. Nothing that any of the conferences that I'd ever gone to and the corporate training and the leadership training and the executive coaching that I've gone to, none of it really ever taught me how to take care of myself, and particularly how to take care of myself and manage my career while I'm sick.
Right. And to maintain that kind of strength when going through something like that, what kind of a mindset does that require? And when you're, helping other women and guiding other women that are going through something like this, what is sort of the mindset that you are trying to instill in them that they need to have?
Is that what I'm trying to teach all women, and really all of us, this is men and women, is that everything that we need to survive is already in us. Our body
Mm.
wants to live. We just have to get rid of the other stuff that's weighing us down and killing us. We have
Right.
to get rid of the weight. And so, in a big way, it's just giving people permission to let go and release the expectations and the obligations that are imposed on them, particularly when they're sick, that they don't need to perform the way that they normally are required to perform. And that when they do that, what you find actually, when you start focusing on your strengths instead of, the weaknesses, or instead of the inadequacies, or instead of where you're failing, you start to notice what you have a really natural inclination in doing, and where you have endless energy.
Right.
And truly that's the answer. It's not something that you can give to somebody. It's something that they have to find in themselves. But the only way that they can access it is when they learn how to quiet the noise and the distractions and the obligations and the expectations and all of the hoopla that we've grown to just accept.
Right.
That's really it.
And how do you help people that are going through something like this? How do you help them sort of bridge that gap between the sort of work life balance, Because, I mean, I'm sure some of these people still have professional obligations going on while they're going through all this. How do you help people find that balance? And what do you suggest there?
So I really don't think there is such thing as balance.
Hmm.
I think it is inherently imbalanced. The key and the utopia is finding integration.
Hmm.
Can you take your superpower? For me, it's marketing, it's connections, it's collaborations, it's building community outreach initiatives that are aligned with your business so that it doesn't feel as exhausting in order to do that thing because it's so aligned with who I am and what I believe. And so I'm naturally connecting with people that inspire me that also drive my business. So I think that that's the key. It's the key to balance is integration. It's
Hmm.
finding ways to truly align your business
Yeah.
with your passion and your superpower. And there's a lot of ways and processes that I walk people through as they're going through it, because it's introspective, and then once it clicks, it's magic. It's magic. It really does start to sort of weave itself um, seamlessly.
And that's really interesting, that concept of integration. What does it look like for someone who maybe their professional life and personal life aren't integrated and aren't on the same page? What does that look like if it's not integrated?
So I think it's a matter of finding a few things. I mean, without just simply quitting and finding a job that is, right?
Right.
I think that it's finding ways that you can integrate it. Finding what is it that there's always a reason or a path that you got to where you're at in the industry that you're in.
Right.
So it's identifying at the end of every day, what are the things that energize you the most at work? What are the things that de-energize you the most at work? How can you set up a time structure around the things that de-energize you so that you can get into it, get done, get it over with, get it out of the way so that you can really spend your time and your mental and emotional capacity enjoying the part that you do love. So I think that it's about time management. And then what you'll start to notice is that once that energy is going into the things that energize you, that starts to multiply because that's just how it works. And so then you'll notice that those things start performing extra great. So no matter where you're at in your business, those will naturally start to reinforce one another. It's a matter of eventually delegating out the things that de-energize you.
Right.
There's definitely a handful of tests and processes that I put people through to sort of isolate what it is that they need to be focusing on, because I think there's so many of us, especially in the entrepreneurial space, where we wear many hats. So often when we're delegating what's easiest to delegate to. We're delegating what's easiest to hire. We're delegating the least, exposing. So, but I think that we're rarely looking at what is our actual natural gift and superpower in our business. But once we can isolate that and we can bring some consciousness around it, it doesn't mean that things have to change right away. It just means that the way that we delegate time around those things can change right away. And that will inherently make you happier and find a little bit more peace in your, daily lives and your daily schedule.
Do you find that there are people that just have not found their passion? Do you find that a lot? That, like in college, there's always some people that have no idea what they're there for, that they're trying to figure out what their major is going to be, that they don't know what their passion is. Do you run into that a lot?
All the time. I mean, and also it evolves. What I found, what lit me up at 21 isn't what lights me up at 21.
Right.
And so I think that it does evolve, and letting yourself let it evolve. Because I've also had the situation where people think that this one thing lights them up and they can't figure out why I have everything I ever thought I wanted and somehow I still feel so direly unfulfilled. Well, that's because you've evolved since you set that goal. And if you don't create a system and a structure around letting those goals evolve with you, then you do find yourself stagnant and stuck and feeling like you're not passionate about anything. So then you start to square one, which is literally why I start everything with wellness, because everything is about connecting to yourself. Even if it's just starting with breath work, just breathe, just sit in silence and breathe for a minute. And that connection, eventually you do unfold what it is that you care about. And if you don't have a clue what you want, start with a list of what you don't want, because usually that list is a lot easier to come through.
Right. And do you find that, because, you're talking about, just taking that time to focus on yourself and breathe and have that moment to kind of reflect and calm, do you find that time management is a huge issue for a lot of people?
Yes, actually. And I use breath work to separate my time structures. So I'm very neurodivergent. So I like to blitz things, and I set it up like a dharma, like a 30-minute, 60-minute, 90-minute dharma. And I create these tasks within that time structure. And because I'm creative, what I really love is in the creative. I love building out creative strategies. I love, connecting with people. That's obviously not always the things that need to get done.
Right.
But I try to, when I set up those dharma and I get things done, after I'm done with that particular task, then I take a minute and I'll take 5 minutes just to do some breath work. It separates my mental energy, and it allows me to go from this more logical, task-oriented project, completion mentality into a more creative, whimsical, freer state of mind that allows me to think outside of the box.
This conversation makes me want to restructure my whole work week.
Honestly, that's my favorite thing to do. It's so amazing because It's a little bitty step, but it's taking all of the brilliance of EOS and strategic coach and all of these programs that we've all heard of in business. And it's adding an emotional element to it, which is that we're allowed to also ask ourselves, what do we want?
Right. And do you find that this is when you work with someone or a business or, do you find that it's a one size fits all approach, or is it very custom tailored to the individual in the business?
It's very custom tailored to the individual in the business. And it's also very much custom tailored to the drive and what motivates the individual behind the business.
Right.
Because we don't want to ignore or, disregard why you got into that business to begin with. But I think that it really is that tailored approach to what you're really doing to simplify all of it is you're finding ways to support younger versions of yourself.
Right.
Right. So take the things that you struggled with the most as a child. Those are probably the organizations and the foundations that you're donating to. Those are probably the galas that you're already attending. Those are probably the nonprofits you're already supporting because they poke at your heartstrings a bit because you recognize and you connect with that person that they're serving. So I think then the magic is once you've figured out what that spark is, then it's figuring out how do you attach that to your business
right.
in a way that's really intentional and that it does drive more connections, more partnerships, more community engagement because it's meaningful and it's stuff that you're already probably doing. I mean, that's the beauty of it is that when it clicks, it's like, oh, wait a minute. It's just adding a little bit more intentionality, to your experience.
So it sounds like whether it's passion or your past or history or your experiences, it sounds like what's at the core of everything that you teach and preach is that you have to have a personal connection. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you do that, it feels so good. It's like, I've worked with so many different businesses where we're working on how to scale, right? Maybe you've hit a plateau. Maybe you're just starting out, but maybe you've hit a plateau and you're like, I don't know how to branch out more into the community. I don't know how to engage them more. You engage them more with authenticity. And I know that that's a key word now all over the place. But I mean, really, like, what do you really care about?
Right.
What do you really feel? What do you really want to support? What really drives you? And I think when you figure that out, that is the piece. It really is the ticket. And that's how you scale. Because now it's every connection that you're making. It's in every policy that you're writing. People start with their mission statement and their values, but how often do you really, I spend so much time on your mission statement and your values because I want you to feel it so deep in your core that you can't live without it.
Right.
Because it resonates so deeply with the 8-year-old you that just wanted whatever it is. Right. So that's it. It's the key to your happiness, but it's the key to balance. And hopefully, really in my intention after being sick, it's your lifeline. It's not sustainable to hate your job. It's sustainable to hate your day. And if it eventually will make you sick. And then you're stuck to have to figure it out when you're laid out. So the best opportunity that you have is to take advice from somebody like me that's had to burn it all down and rebuild it from start in order to, survive it all.
Right.
That you have the power to make a change now. And that's really a beautiful realization and awareness. It's just finding the right, coach or mentor or consultant that can help you do it. It's like a business therapy.
And I was going to say, you just casually dropped one of the best lines I've ever heard. You have the power to make a change now. That is something that everybody, I think, listening is going to take away from this. That's a really incredible message. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And now you're not just a leadership coach, though, and you're not just a coach, and you're also a content producer and a writer. Would you care to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So writing, I've journaled my whole life. I never considered it as a career or I never even fathomed writing a book. I wrote this book because when I got diagnosed with breast cancer, I had a lot of people reaching out to me saying, my cousin, my sister, my aunt, my boss, my daughter was diagnosed. Would you mind chatting with them and, just helping them out or guiding them kind of through the process and how you came out the other end the way that you did? And, so I started doing that. And what I started to see was a few things. Not everybody wants to reach out. I got a few different referrals when I was diagnosed and I didn't want to talk to anybody.
Right.
The other piece is there's only one of me. So then I started really working with a lot of these women, and it was taking up a lot of time that I didn't really have because I was also building my business. I needed to find a way to scale essentially how my manual for how I went through treatment. So I wrote a book. I went back to all of the text message threads that I had with all of the survivors I talked to. I went back to my own text messages in the very beginning of my diagnosis. And I laid out the bones of what it is that I did and how do you come to a place of acceptance, journal entries that I thought would help guide somebody through the process. How do you find some serenity? So a big piece was there's a lot that you can't control going through treatment, but there's a lot you can. So things like I'm an extroverted extrovert. So I hosted a shave day for myself, and I created a big party and I went and did meditation in the morning and went on a long walk and I got my makeup done and I bought a cute outfit that I knew that when I went into the salon and I invited some friends to join me and I played my playlist and I drank my favorite champagne and I shaved my head in the most empowering environment that I could curate for myself. Now, I've worked with a lot of different women going through treatment, and some have chosen to do this at home at their house with their family in private, and some have chosen to do it exactly the way that I've done it. Doesn't matter how you do it. It's just you curating it the way that really makes you feel empowered. Things like I did a chemo schedule, so I invited people to do chemo with me, and that was sort of my way to, get excited about treatment. I was excited about who I got to spend time with. People came from friends that I hadn't seen for 20 years, came and did chemo with me. And it really did create a whole different experience. How to set up a system of support, how to ask for help, how to energize yourself, just like what we're talking about here. Chapters 4 and 5 is everything that we're talking about right now. And it's how do you protect your energy and how do you create more of it? I talked about breath work, meditation, visualization, all these things that really helped me with the mindset. So I wrote it out in a book and then I published it myself because I don't know how to get a publisher or how to get that together. And so I published it myself. And now I use that with my nonprofit and I offer cancer care kits to women that are diagnosed. So you can go to my website, you can request a kit for somebody that you know that's been diagnosed. You only pay a donation, whatever you want to donate for me to be able to send this gift box out. And in that gift box, they get the book. So now women that maybe wouldn't reach out to me now have access to everything that I would have told them in a text message anyway. And now I get to feel like I'm still connected and really helping. And a lot of times those women reach out and they come to my retreats or they come to some of my events or they come to my supper club or any of the host of things that I do. It's really another way to build community around what I'm building in the aftermath. So after they're going through treatment or after they've figured out their treatment plan, how do they focus on health and wellness while they're growing through it? Finding the right facilitators. It's all of that.
So what it sounds like is whether through the nonprofit, the coaching, the book, it sounds like at the core of everything you do is helping people. Is that something that was innate to you as a person and your personality, or is that something that you cultivated as a result of your experiences?
I think it built the awareness around it, but it's not even just helping people, it's helping people connect.
Right.
And it's helping people really connect with themselves first and then connect with others that are aligned with them, that really energize them and support them in a meaningful way and allow ourselves to evolve. And right now I'm writing a book on reinvention. And the whole concept there is, what if you realize, whether it's cancer or not, maybe it's cancer, maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's a death in the family, maybe you just woke up one day and realized this is not my life and I don't want this anymore. What do you do? How do you shift? And, for me, I'm learning that that's actually the biggest struggle. And so now that's what I'm writing about because, again, that connection to yourself, when you really find your true purpose and your true calling, you're unstoppable and it's effortless. I mean, there's effort, but it's effortless. You wake up and you can't wait to do it, even if it's a ton of work, because it just feels good. And
Right.
that's how everybody ought to be able to wake up.
That's amazing. And let me ask, is there maybe, because it sounds like, through everything that you've done and everything you've been through and all of the people you help, it sounds like you have, you must have thousands of stories.
That
Is there maybe a story that stands out as someone that you really saw a transformation in, or as a result of your help?
Yeah.
I know
God,
that's a loaded question. I apologize.
I know. Let me think about that for a second. Yeah, there is. I mean, so through treatment, it was actually the first woman that I helped because she was a workaholic like me, and also in marketing, and also in the legal industry. And I saw her slowly implementing the things like inviting people to come and do chemo with her. She sent me pictures every week. Another thing that I did is I got like 40 wigs. Instead of picking the one fancy one, I bought, $10 costume wigs. And I just had a lot of fun with the different characters. And she really did that. And every week she was sending me pictures from chemo with a different wig and socks. And she made t-shirts for her friends that came and did chemo with her. And she had a really long, drawn out process, and much longer. My treatment, I did 8 rounds of chemo, and I think she did 16. And it was just really incredible to see her transformation, where initially she didn't want to be a burden to anybody. She didn't want anybody to even know about her cancer, really.
Mm.
To now she's walking around with, a purple wig, and, you know, really just owning that moment, and allowing herself to have some fun with what is otherwise really painful. And then now coming out of it, she balances so much. Talk about balance. She balances so much more in her family time. She's really connected so much deeper with her colleagues, so that they're able to have a more empathetic and, authentic connection and relationship, because now they've seen her through that. So there really is such power in showcasing our vulnerability and asking for help, because you give people an opportunity to be empathetic and to show up for you in a meaningful way. And so watching that transition over the course of the year, not only just because she was the first woman that I worked with, that really allowed me to think, wow, I really got something here. I think if more women had access to this information, maybe they would navigate their experience a little bit differently. And maybe caregivers could show up a little bit differently. That to me, I think, was the most impactful.
I mean, I can tell you're a writer because you just casually drop these fantastic lines. You have the power to change now. There's power in vulnerability. And I think it's really amazing that you're helping people find power in this situation. And can you talk about maybe just a little bit here how you help people find that power and how you found that power in yourself through this whole kind of ordeal, this time?
Yeah. So what I learned for me was that I craved connection really, really deeply. And so I learned that all of these years I've been building networks. And I just thought it was something that everybody did. They made friends, built they built networks. I didn't realize until I was going through this how really meaningful and impactful those connections are. And also, I didn't realize how strong they can be. And I think for me, it was that realization of I've really built a network of love over my whole life. I mean, literally, my best friends from high school that I hadn't seen in 20 years
Right.
go out to San Jose to have treatment with me. That connection, that bond is really tight. And when you create a network with that much love and intention, I think that it really does stand the test of time and of evolution. And I think now it's just adapting that to my career. It
Yeah.
was really learning. I mean, I was naturally great at marketing. That's how I got into it. I didn't go to school for marketing. I went to school to be a teacher.
Right.
But I naturally built networks everywhere I went. So I think it's a matter of because I crave that connection and because I value that connection, I build networks quickly. And now I learned I can help support others do the same. It's, again, finding that connection to themselves, which starts with this sort of initial introspective chapter. And again, that's the breath work, it's meditation, it's visualization, it's movement, it's integration intentionally every day, all of those things in one sort of daily ritual that really allows you to connect. And what you find is that over time, there becomes common denominators. What do you desire? What do you miss? What do you yearn for? If you yearn for something, that's when you create it. So you start to figure out what it is that you want that way. And you learn your power based on, what it is that you can do that others can't. And if you don't know how, if you don't have a clue what that is, I have a much more in-depth process that I help leaders really unlock that on a one-on-one basis. But there's definitely, again, that's where it's like a business therapist, although I am not a therapist. Disclaimer.
Well, Melissa, this has been an absolutely fantastic and really super interesting conversation. If anyone out there listening could use your help or could use the help of the nonprofit or would like to read some of your writing, where can the people find you?
They can go to my website at meljune.com, MELJUNE. And then same thing on all my socials. Everything is meljune.com.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa. This has been absolutely awesome.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here, and it's great to chat with you.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Thanks again.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.